Yeah, so what do you believe in? Like, do you think that is the life that you should follow? Because when you go to the red pill spaces, that's pretty much the end route, is because you're high value, you got a bunch of Lamborghinis, you're extremely rich. And we talk about competence when it comes to a high value man. Like, I didn't have a rich dad growing up, and that didn't really hinder his competence. And in fact, in a lot of ways, being a father will help you become more competent because other people are dependent and you're responsible for them. So that will make you become a full, capable man, which is, I think, the most important part of life. It's the most important part of life is not having a bunch of hoes, not fucking 50 girls, or getting the most amount of money possible, just hustle, grinding forever. The reason that we are here is to have a family, is to create. And so you see the red pill, and it's a response to feminism. You see this doomer way, like all these girls are hoes, all these girls on Instagram, they're all thoughts, whatever, they all belong to the streets. And so the reaction to that is the red pill, which is basically feminism, just male feminism. It's the same response. We make fun of girls who say that they want to freeze their eggs and wait till they're 35, and then men are giving the same advice to each other, saying, and I know you're not saying that's advice, but pretty much, like, if you look at the definition of advice, that's what that tweet was.
And we are live. What's up, guys? Welcome to the Fresh Fit Podcast, man. A long anticipated debate between Rollo, Michael Sartain, Sneako, and Destiny. Let's get into it.
Let's go.
We are live. What's up, guys? Welcome to the Fresh Fit Podcast, man. It's a special day today. It's Monday, but we got something special for y'all. We canceled the after hours. We're going to have a debate. You guys have been waiting for this one for a while. So let me go ahead and make some quick announcements before we get into the show. Number one, rumble.com/freshfit. Check us out over there, guys, because we'll probably get canceled any day now with Sneako. And he's over there on Rumble as well, rumble.com/Sneako. So go check him out.
Yes, sir.
Over there. It's the future.
And Kai and Speed just joined Rumble too, so it's really taken over. Ooh. All the people that were doubting, everybody that's talking about Kick. I know Aiden's panicking right now because Rumble's looking really good. Kai and Speed, two of the biggest Gen Z streamers, are going to be a huge demographic coming over.
Facts.
Join Rumble before it's too late because things are really about to start to switch up.
Facts.
All right.
Shout out to Rumble,
good stuff.
Rollo, let's start Rumble. Let's get on Rumble.
Yeah,
I'm already on Rumble.
It's a new wave, man. Freshfit.locals.com, guys. Go check us out over there as well. Also, we're on Megaphone. So if you guys want to listen to the podcast audio version, make sure to wear headphones so you don't get fired at your job. Get the merch, freshandfitpodcaststore.com. I got my Chris the Bum shirt on, my favorite one, because Chris definitely is a bum and he doesn't even know how to use the cameras correctly. Chris, once again, bro. And you know what's funny? He's the one that set the cameras up.
Hey, my God, man. New angles, man. New players.
Stupid. Come on, man.
Hey, do a line.
Yeah, oh, yeah. That's the excuse to use every time. And then also, guys, get freshandfitpodcaststore.com. Definitely go get a Chris the Bum shirt after that one. Yeah. And then also check out our Clips channel, guys, Fresh Fit Clips. And then also check out our other channel, more Fresh Fit Clips. Check out Fresh Fit Vlog.
Yep. Guys, for vlogs, man, funny shorts, go check it out. Guys, join the network, man. Add value, get value. Let's go. And then Myron's channel.
Fed 1811, as you guys know, I break down criminal cases. Actually, my bad. I changed it to Fed Reacts.
Fed Reacts.
It's called Fed Reacts now, guys. So go ahead and check it out. The last episode I did was, God damn it.
Mafia?
Golden State. Yeah, Golden State Killer. Thank you, bro. I did the Golden State Killer yesterday. He went on the run for like 30-40 years. It took forever for them to catch him, but they finally did through DNA. So if you guys want to go check that out, go check it out, Fed Reacts. And then I'm going to be dropping Al Capone and the Outfit on Thursday this week. And and then I won't be in town, guys. So you guys are actually going to get a special show with these guys without me here on Friday.
Rollo, Sartain, and myself.
Yes.
Running the show.
And then, Fresh? Running the show?
And Sneako might come with somebody too. Who knows?
Who knows?
Who knows? We might have something for y'all. But anything else? Oh, yeah, and get my book, guys, Why Women Deserve Less. And I'll go ahead and read the chats. And then also, all the guys, all their links are below, guys. Go support them down below. I got their Rumbles, their YouTubes, etc. Destiny, Sneako, Rollo, and Michael Sartain. So I'll read these chats real quick. From this point forward, guys, we're not going to read anything outside of $100 and up because obviously we want to make sure that we have the debate going nice and smoothly. Just so you guys know, me and Fresh are not going to participate. We're just going to simply moderate. I got a couple topics here at hand, but let me read these and I'll give you guys the ground rules. Jordan 14 goes, Sneako too focused on a vasectomy last time. The point is not to have kids when you're broke and haven't built yourself up yet and can't provide. Not every man is young and successful like you are. Well, sir, you will be armchair debating somewhere else because don't worry. Colin Stevens goes, you should ask the resident blue-haired cuck if he still supports the position on ethical CP, have him elaborate, then see if the panel agrees. That's not today's topic, my friend. Manuel J. Hernandez, Destiny likes men unless his chick ran through. Not the best guy to get advice from. Be a man. Okay, Mulan. We got Fresh's stutter. I didn't get invited to the round table again. El Fresh, I hope you haven't skipped any therapy sessions.
Let's go.
Thank you, sir.
You've been skipping them sessions.
Let's go.
And he did come late, by the way, too.
CPT.
Yeah, he definitely did come late. Masculine Excellence goes, question for Destiny. Do you think it's important for a father to be physically present in their son's
Psychically.
life? Particularly. What?
Psychically.
Psychically. Oh, shit.
They probably meant physically, I'd imagine. But maybe they're that kind of person.
Yeah,
too.
let's use grammar with some
present in their son's life, particularly during the adolescence and teen years. If so, how much in-person father-son time is necessary to raise a virtuous son? That might come up in today's topic. Zorino goes, I'd like to hear Sneako and others answer this. Is Leonardo DiCaprio a high-value man for scoring with 19-year-old models in his late 40s without having kids? Don't worry, we'll talk about that. 0259 goes, I like how Destiny makes fun of extreme RP ideology while he believes a woman's body count don't matter. Okay,
we're gonna get to that today too.
Martin, would you say Destiny fits the description of a placeholder husband and he's just coping when he says he's cool with his girl cheating on him? No, whatever, man. Y'all asking me
this is about them guys, not us.
There. Come on, man.
Yeah, man.
Derek Stacy, $20. Have y'all looked into the Israel Adesanya situation yet?
Stop bender. The UFC guy with the girl.
Oh, yeah, we'll cover that probably next week.
We will, yeah.
His
ex-girlfriend
of 2 years is trying to take half his stuff. No kids, no marriage. P Clown World, FNF, W Sneako, W Destiny, W.
Adesanya, I'll pay for all your lawyer fees to beat this case.
Oh, that's crazy, bro. That
we can hold you to it then. Good.
Hey, you're supposed to moderate, man. Be quiet.
Salam, Martin and Sneako. Vasectomy is not a solution. Better advice would be to make a bunch of money and leave the U.S. Okay. Samuel L. goes, Lyra Gonzalo has been arrested again by Ukrainian SBU at gunpoint. Really? There's a video. He needs your public support and the social pressure to save his life. Please bring attention to this extremely important fact. God help Lyra. God damn, bro.
Is that like for the third time or the second time?
Yeah, it's the second time.
Maybe the last time
that we know about.
They're hating over there in Ukraine.
I saw the second time. I didn't know.
Charlie Jones. Hi, I love Funna. Rollo's explanation of the tweet didn't make sense. He said a high value man is subjective to you, which it's not. Don't worry, we're going to actually define that at the top of the show. High value man is objective based on the marketplace of society. Otherwise, everyone is high value man based off our own subjectivity. All right. And then Nate Diaz goes, Destiny mind fucks women and keeps them on the line with blue pill game. His wife is just a trophy 304. He's admitted last pod that he doesn't really care about marriage. Rollo at least lives life. S&D say you should
suck and dick.
Okay, I don't know what that means.
I don't think that's what the N is for. I don't think that's what.
Sneako Phil Alpha getting the French girl's number who he won't wife yet lectures FNF that high value men should want more than just sex. Is your pat to hypocrisy padded with sermonizing?
You guys are in too deep. Like these super chats are just way. I get a girl's number on a show.
This is where you're humbled at the beginning of the show, right here.
Don't worry.
Any more about me sucking dick? Or
those haven't come yet.
Okay, gotcha.
When can we have Coach Greg Adams on the show? By the way, I've been following ever since he got on, and 40K subs. Will anyone in this table hold a debate with CGA? We agree with a lot of his points.
He's cool.
Tell the truth. Did the show start late because Destiny was scissoring Sneako's girl?
No,
it did not. It was actually because Fresh. First super chat.
Was scissoring Sneako's girl?
What the hell?
You guys have brought so much value to my life. Credit score over 750. Got me some business credit. I appreciate you guys. Keep doing what you're doing. Chris, what aren't these? Chris.
Yeah, these are before, but it's fine now.
Okay. How many? Okay. I wonder if Sneako will be on Rollo's side today, considering how he changes his mind every week. What if?
Damn. What kind of like, tell me exactly what I changed my mind on. So did anyone ever say that, or just like I'm a leaf blowing in the wind?
Sneako's already trolled. He's already gone.
Just ignore them, bro. I'm just reading through these.
Well, you guys kind of agreed with that point of view, but it's okay. It's okay.
Where we at here?
20 up.
Fresh.
No, it's cool.
Thank God. Cool. No, we're going 100 up from.
No, but it's so.
Oh, these came from before.
Yeah,
bro. Okay. Thank God, Fresh ain't talking. Sorry, homie. And why Sneako looking extra Asian all of a sudden? Okay.
No, you looking extra black always.
All right, Mark, go ahead.
This is true.
Talking.
Okay. So quick little so here's a summary of what's going to go on, guys. As you guys know, they have some disagreements on some things. We're going to go ahead and moderate the debate. Me and Fresh will not be jumping in. We are simply going to be here to moderate. We're going to cover 4 main topics: the vasectomy tweet, dual mating strategy, divorce, and promiscuity. But to kick it off, we're going to go ahead and define certain terms: high value man, alpha male, hypergamy. Do you guys want to introduce yourself to the people real quick?
Yeah, real quick.
I think probably everybody knows who I am. Rollo Tomasi, I'm the author of the 5 books that are the Rational Male series books.
I'm Michael Sartain. I'm a former U.S. military officer. I flew 5 years special ops, 2 years counterintelligence, and now I have a performance coaching program, and then I host a podcast with him where we discuss evolutionary psychology.
Access Vegas.
Cool. Destiny.
I'm Steve Bunnell. I host politics, YouTube, philosophy YouTube, and video games on YouTube, youtube.com/Destiny. I've been doing this for about 13 years.
All right.
Sneako, canceled streamer on Rumble, and certified douche nozzle.
There you go.
That is correct. Certified.
Fantastic. So guys, all the chats are going to be shown on screen. However, we're only going to read the ones that are 100 and up just so that we can make sure that we get through this debate. So first, we're going to start with defining what a high value man is, alpha male, and hypergamy. And then we're going to come to basically an agreed upon definition for the table. So that way nothing is lost in translation during the course of the conversation. We already got 20,000 y'all in here. So do me a favor, like the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and then subscribe to everyone's channel here. Sneako on Rumble, Destiny on YouTube,
Access Vegas,
Rollo on YouTube,
Rollo.
And Michael Sartain on YouTube as well. Their links are below. And then,
Pretty much
so we'll go ahead and who wants to kick it off with defining high value man?
Before we define things, I wrote like 6 things down so we can all agree on things. So we have like a common base going forward. Okay. Okay. So I wrote 6 rules that I hope we can all kind of adhere to for this conversation.
Yes.
So for the first one, all of us here are trying to approach some notion of what is true in terms of what we're analyzing. We're not here to make fun of each other, scream at each other, be emotional, whatever, but we're trying to figure out what the most true shit is, essentially, right? Number 1. Number 2, I personally think we should move through arguments point by point rather than like diatribing for 5 or 10 minutes so that the other time, because you don't want to start off a point where somebody already disagrees and then talk for another 5 or 10 minutes. And so if I'm saying something or Sneako's saying something or you guys saying something, if you disagree, just be like, hey, let's talk about this thing before we rattle on a ton. Okay. Number 3, because I hear this accusation a lot. If anybody feels like there's a debate tactic in the room, call it out. And we've got the moderators here. If somebody feels like they're straw manning or appealing to emotion or false authority or whatever, so like, hey, hold on, I don't like that. Point it out. Nobody should be leaving here and then in 2 weeks being like, there was a lot of debate tactics going on. Call it out if you see it, and we'll address it right here.
Yep.
Okay. Number 4, we've kind of already addressed this. So words have to have meaning. We're having these conversations. So even if we want to say that a feeling about a particular word is subjective or whatever, we all have to agree on that. Otherwise, we're going to be lost in the sauce if we're all like arguing, what does it mean to be alpha or beta? And we all have like 4 different definitions working. Okay. And then 2 more. 5 is trying to keep this as scientific as possible. So if somebody says like, well, there was a study in England with 33 million participants, and another guy's like, well, on Instagram, I saw 2 stories. Okay, let's try to keep it like as, I know you do a lot of scientific stuff. I know you've done a lot of reading. Sneako is very scientific here with his Quran. So let's try to keep it as based as possible.
Don't hit it like that.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I was petting it. My bad. Okay, and then final point. If some side feels like they're not being understood, or if they feel like their points are being misconstrued, ask the other side to just like state like, hey, what do you think I just said? Or hey, what do you think I think about this particular thing? And then the other side will try to restate the argument so that we're all on the same page. Okay. So roughly speaking, just to keep it. Yeah. Okay.
No,
we all cool? Okay.
Definitely. And we'll stay away from that homonyms and keep it as cordial as possible.
Cool.
So yeah, we'll start with.
And now we lost half of the viewers.
All right, so we'll start with defining what a high value man is, and then also real quick, when we're making arguments, or whatever, I'll be timing you guys at least on the vasectomy part. We're going to cover that first. But let's define what a high value man is.
Mention how this started from last show or no?
No, they know.
Okay, cool.
Trust me, there's 20,000 people they know.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. So let's define high value man. Who wants to take the first crack at it so everyone at the table can agree what it is?
I'll go if you guys want me to go. So, of course, everybody wants to like nail me on what's a high value man. Okay. So I could have said this on our last engagement here, is that a high value man is the man that other men want to be and other women want to fuck. That's straight out of I think it was my 3rd book or my 2nd book. Okay. That's too broad a definition, I think. So I could have just simply said that. People ask me all the time in the tweet or on Twitter and social media afterwards, like, why didn't you just simply say that? Okay. Well, problem with that is because once you get past that, it's a little bit too broad of a definition. So I did a little bit of homework on the way over here on the plane. And we generally go to, the female delusion calculator on our show. And you guys have used the female delusion calculator as well. So what is a high value man? Well, we've asked that question quite a bit from pretty much every girl that we've had on our show. Now, should it be defined by women? Maybe, maybe not, but there's a criteria there that forms the basis, I would say, like just the core principle of what is a high value man. So when we go through that, we go and we say, okay, well, how tall is that guy? How much money does that guy make? What is his, is he obese? Is he like, and there's very specific details that go into that. And then through that, we say, okay, well, that represents what, like 0.02% of the population.
Yeah, I mean, if you're specific, we're talking about the GSS survey, or not the GSS.
No, CDC,
the CDC stuff,
and census and census stuff. So we always, and you guys do the same thing when we are looking to establish what is a high value man, at least as far as what women are looking for at that time. And I'm not saying that there's another definition for guys as well. As I said, it's other men want to be, and other women want to have sex with.
So what parameters would you?
Exactly. Good question. Now, you guys, right around the first year of your show here, you had Kevin Samuel sitting right here, and one of the things he said is that the guy must make something like $10,000 a month, I believe, is what it was.
Roughly, yeah.
Roughly. So that comes out to $120,000 a year. Mm-hmm. Can we agree that if you make $120,000 a year, would that make, like, as far as money is concerned, would that make you a high value guy?
I think it depends on where you are. Like, if you're in Manhattan, I think it would be problematic. If you're in Wichita, Kansas, that's a lot of money.
Okay, so
I think, can we hit? I'll give a very broad definition. I think we can all agree on this. I think in the broadest sense, when we talk about men, we talk about what a high value man is. We think about what men are designed to do. Mm-hmm. I think that a high value man is somebody that can partition or acquire a lot of resources.
Okay,
in the broadest of senses, and that can be done in a lot of ways.
But do we want to put a specific number on those resources?
I think a lot is relative, so it's going to be more than your fellow guy.
Right,
so if you make $120,000 a year in Kansas, you're the fucking king.
Correct.
If you make 120,000 years in San Francisco,
yes.
Your neighbor is probably a crackhead. Right?
Yeah. So
it just depends on.
Your argument last time was the subjectivity of what you were saying, and
exactly.
that's the thing.
And
no matter what number we say is a subjectivity. For me, high value man is going to be the guy who puts fitness first. He's going to have a job that's scalable, where he's doing something that he loves, and he's going to have his options on what woman that he can date. Now, if you were to look at that and say, like, for instance, I like Greg O'Gallagher. I'm a big fan of How to Beast. Brandon Carter's a buddy of mine. Wes Watson. Goggins, what's his name? Jocko Willink. Those guys I consider to be high value men. The thing is, though, if Greg O'Gallagher is dating a woman with breast implants and fucking plastic surgery, another person who has different religious beliefs is going to be like, no, that's haram. That's bad. So that's the thing. It's the subjectivity of it.
Sure. I think important to keep in mind is when we say value, we're implying some sort of exchange between multiple people. So like a moral man or a virtuous man might be way different than a high value man. We can all probably think of people that are very virtuous or moral.
Wouldn't someone virtuous who goes by the Quran then have a different definition? Like, for instance, you guys had an argument before about family creation. If several of those guys I just mentioned, they are not interested in family creation. They're interested in being the most attractive versions of themselves they can be. So you would have one person say, this is not a high value man. They would call that person a joke. And another guy would be like, yo, man, I have been used by women my whole life. I've been broke my whole fucking life. And I see this guy and he's fucking killing it. That's a high value man. The subjectivity of it is like something like when you...
I don't think it's as subjective as you're making it. I don't think religious people would really disagree about that. I just don't think that, and this is where red pill kind of hits the wall, because it doesn't go past just how much money you make. So,
yeah, like I think something that's really important.
So that's just one aspect of what a high
the subjectivity part comes in, I think, when it comes to, if we use my broad definition of resource acquisition, the subjective part is, what do you need to acquire resources? So for instance, we say fitness, right? Fitness could be a proxy for acquiring resources. If you're hunting in the wilderness, a more fit guy can climb a tree, kill a bear, whatever. But in some societies, fitness isn't a proxy for how much money you make, right? I imagine that on average, there's probably a lot of really wealthy people that are not, I don't know how much Bill Gates can bench press, right? But for resource acquisition, he's very, very, very valuable. So, and then also I think we have to keep in mind, when I say high value, and I know Rollo likes to do this a lot, and so I'm going to try to play in this realm. I'm not trying to morally load any of these words. A high value man. So this question got asked, right?
You mean just supply and demand?
Yeah. So Epstein was a high value man.
Yeah, okay.
But obviously morally a horrible character,
of course,
right?
Okay.
And there's going to be a lot of high value people that have a lot of value in society in terms of how much resource they can demand, right? Or Genghis Khan or whatever, who are morally deplorable people. And there's going to be a lot of very morally righteous people, virtuous people, who don't really possess a lot of value. Maybe it's a carpenter, or maybe
if
it's
I can intervene real fast. I think one thing that we can all agree to, right, is I agree that it's immoral, right? A guy being high value. So it could be someone like
amoral.
Amoral. It could be, someone that's good or bad. But I would say this: respected by peers, has a skill set, he has a network of successful men around him, and we could say $100,000 per year. But we'll say, let's say if you make $100,000 per year, and let's say like maybe a Kansas living type quality.
Sure. So those are all subjective, but we'd all probably agree in the West.
So
that'll get you to probably.
I would say
we'd agree on the vector.
That comes closer.
Yeah, sure.
We'd agree on the vector.
True.
And you seem to be agreeing with Myron now, but you also said last time that Elon Musk is not a high value man. Ben Shapiro's not
from a particular context. No, he's not.
From what context?
Well, from the context that he is not married. Is a high value man married?
That has nothing to do with being married or not.
Well, it does to the definition that other people
do. You think other people think that being a high value man would have some correlation to being married and having kids?
I would say
some people would say
because the tweet that I made, everybody had a very big problem with not focusing on family creation or not getting married. So is a high value man married?
People saw it as advice. Like
I think for the purpose of this debate, we want to probably keep it as simple as possible so that it isn't extremely nuanced definition. I think like if the person is married or not, should it matter? I think it should be on things that we can all mutually agree, like, okay.
Or how about we can agree that a person of high value probably has the ability to get married and have a lot of children, but they might not necessarily.
If they choose not to do so, that's on them. Yeah. And going back to the morality, I think that's a fantastic point. Even though someone like Epstein is a deplorable individual, on paper, he had a network of net worth people. He had politicians in his pocket. He had quite a bit of money. He had a skill set.
He probably had a vasectomy too.
Yeah, probably.
Shout out to the CIA. Shout out to the CIA.
By now, I would hope so by now.
He did have a skill set, and he earned a good amount of money. So on paper, he's a high value guy, and I think that's something that we can all agree to. So we can. Fair enough. Okay, so we'll go off of respected by peers, has a skill set, network of other successful people around him. Morality doesn't matter, and we could say $100,000, if not more. And when we talk about $100,000, we don't mean $100,000, but we mean the ability to live in a certain way. Fair?
Cost of living adjustment.
Yeah, cost of living adjustment. Fair
Consistently.
Enough?
Can I take? Oh, you're probably going to say that. You're probably going to say the same thing I'm going to say.
Go ahead.
Okay, so but he also has to be useful.
Yes.
Correct.
Yes.
Utilities.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So
competency. Yeah.
Right. So there's a competency. So is a high value man educated?
Like well, so competency again is going to be valued by society. So, for instance, I can change a light bulb, but I can't like fix a toilet. So my competency in the household is going to be relatively low. But as an entertainer, my competency is very high. That happens to be valued by society right now. And in another society, I might just be left for dead in the woods. So competencies and saying
so again,
you can probably find like
who's doing the
exactly. You can find the best hunter possible in sub-Saharan Africa and bring him to the United States. And he's not going to do shit.
Yeah.
Right?
I don't think education has to be a component. I think if they're like a doctor,
education could be a way towards competency. But there's lots of different ways you can build competency, right?
Okay, cool. So is that fair with all you guys?
Yeah, competency.
So one more time. So just to define for the audience here, when we talk about high value guy, we're talking about someone that's respected by the peers, has a skill set, has competence, has a network of other successful men that respect them, and we'll say $100,000 per year, bare minimum, based on living a certain way. Not necessarily $100,000 per se, but $100K per year, just so you guys have a placeholder. Now we go into alpha male. I mean, I don't use this. We don't use this term that often, but I mean, just for the purpose
of space, use it a lot.
Well, that's why we're talking about high value male, because that's kind of what has replaced alpha male over the years. Like when I first started writing, it was all about alpha, and then like right around 2017, 2018, everybody started using high value male.
So do you guys want to just use HVM as the same?
Yeah, I'm gonna fight.
I think Kevin Samuels made it popular for the most part.
So just HVM.
I'm probably gonna fight in particular on alpha male, but that's gonna be later. That because he wants to do the vasectomy talk first. So
okay, but how do you want to define alpha male then? So we have.
I don't know. I'll ask them later because that'll come up. That's a whole line of questioning.
Okay. And then hypergamy. How do you guys want to define hypergamy?
Let me do one more real quick on the useful side of things, because I had a list of other things here. So it was like, as far as being useful and educate, I wanted to ask the education question. The other thing is, you got to be productive. Obviously, you got to be at least a productive member of society. Would that also be included in the conventional?
It is, but all of these things are proxies for value. So again, I'm very productive, but it's just because people like entertainment. In another society, I would have no production.
And that's where the respect comes in. Yeah, because your productivity will align to some.
And then the other aspect of this is recognition. So people, when they see you, they understand that you are high value in some way. Like they go,
almost every human is wired for resources.
Exactly, but we're also plugging that person into a hierarchy.
Well, I think it depends on which hierarchy. Like he said before, he goes to a mechanic shop.
That's the subjective thing that we're trying.
An extreme example would be like Stephen Hawking, right? Who had motor neuron disorder, was relegated to a wheelchair, but was one of the smartest men who ever lived. That would be an example of someone who's super competent, but in other areas isn't competent. I would consider him a high value man, but he couldn't walk. So that's an interesting. That's what the subjectivity of it.
All right, cool. So I guess alpha male will deal for later, and then hypergamy. How do you guys want to define that, just so we understand here? Because I mean, it's an ever-growing term. It used to be the practice of marrying up originally. So how do you guys want to do it?
Okay, so let me just see if I can define terms here. Okay, so the classic understanding, if you go and you look in the dictionary, you go to Wikipedia right now, the classic understanding of hypergamy, to the letter is it was a term that was used by a sociologist. I want to say it was in the 1950s, and he was studying the caste system in India. In Hindu cultures, and how the tendency for women to marry from a lower caste to a higher caste. that was based primarily on the socioeconomic status of that person and that family and everything else. And that's the original idea came from. So it's based primarily on sort of like the provisioning, protection, and parental investment. It's dowries, it's marriage, it's the formalization of like a relationship. In the last, I would say, 20 some odd years, we broadened the definition of hypergamy to include the alpha fucks beta buck side of things. Okay, so there is the short-term sexual side of things because women mate up, across, and up, as well as marry across and up. And as far as the definition is concerned, I've been trying to do this myself, right, is to expand the definition. But also people like Jordan Peterson have been using that expanded definition for probably going on another 5 or 6 years right now. So,
okay. So
that would be my definition of it.
Can I?
Okay. So to boil it down, will we say the practice of marrying and or dating up when it comes to socioeconomic
the attempt.
Okay.
So this is so I'm going to come from an evolutionary standpoint. There is some algorithm that men, Homo sapien males, have to where they can see a woman and be like, that woman's attractive immediately. It's not something that's taught to them. They know immediately that woman is attractive.
She passes the boner test.
She passes exactly very quickly. There must be some correlating algorithm in a female psychology to determine the men she finds attractive or would consider having sex with, and the men she doesn't. Now that is going to be more complicated because for women, there are so many more things. What we talk about in statistics, negative kurtosis. There are so many more things that women are attracted to about men. The book, Why Women Have Sex by David Buss and Cindy Messon lists 237 reasons why women choose to have sex, whereas for men, it's like 4. So because of that algorithm, that complicated evolutionary algorithm is hypergamy. That's what I would consider it. It is the way by which women sift which guy I like from which guy I don't like. It must exist just like it exists in men. So that's the way I would pose it.
All right, would it be fair to say it's sifting up though, right?
Yes,
it's not sifting, just sifting. It's sifting up
because her evolutionary imperative is to find the strongest son that she can. So that strongest son is going to deal with some competency or some physicality that man has that she's choosing him for.
All right, is that fair for you guys?
I accept the definition. Yeah,
you accept that definition. All right,
I agree.
So a quick little recap. So we went over defining the terms. We went over high value men. We say about $100,000 when it comes to cost of living of a certain way, respected by your peers, having a skill set network of successful individuals around you, competence, and it is amoral. So even someone like Jeff Epstein, even though he's a terrible person, he would be considered a high value man on paper, just so that we have.
Can you say Epstein?
Epstein, whatever. Epstein, Epstein, doesn't matter. He's one of them boys anyway. He's one of them boys. Who cares?
Listen, he faked his own death. He's fine. Whatever.
And then
we don't know about that.
I'm kidding.
Hypergamy is the attempt,
allegedly
to mate up or sifting up, and having filters for men. And then alpha male I guess that's a bridge we'll cross when we get there. So I guess we'll open up the discussion here, guys, with obviously the infamous tweet. Let's pull it up real quick, Chris. We got 28K y'all watching. So
like the video, man. Sub to the channel.
We'll probably have to kill the Facebook and Twitter stream here very soon. But come on over to YouTube, guys.
Doesn't that get you banned off of Twitter for cuck? Or Twitch for cuck?
Yeah, I think so.
We're banned on Twitch anyway.
Yeah. Okay, guys. So this was Rollo's tweet. So I'm gonna read it real quick for y'all. The quickest path to becoming a high-value man. Number 1, do not get married. Number 2, avoid family creation. Number 3, vasectomy in your 20s. Number 4, lift consistently.
Vasectomy.
Number 5, eliminate all sedations. Number 6, learn game and networking. Number 7, play to your strengths and build wealth. And then number 8, resist easing up on your focus. So I guess I'll turn it to Rollo. Do you want to?
Sure. Okay. So I think we have already established the fact that to be a high value man, we have a sort of a convention, at least somewhat of a conventional definition of that right now. Now, how long would it take the average guy to achieve what we would in some way say this is what makes you a high value guy? It doesn't have to be the $120,000, but like the functional evaluated equivalent of that. I think it takes longer for men,
for sure,
to get to reach maturity and to reach a point of where they get their they can maximize their potential.
Well, let's stick to the science because that's what he wanted. Number 1, we had Richard Reeves on, and he talked about boys being 1 or 2 years behind women as far as development is concerned, and also from the book Dataclysm, men reaching their sexual peak around, or attractiveness peak around the age of 38 to 43, somewhere in that area.
Yeah.
So that's science behind what you're saying. It would take longer for men.
But my point being is that, and I'll reiterate this one more time. The reason why I put this out there is because I watched you guys with Derek Moneyberg, and I think it was Brandon Carter, who was on here. And Brandon Carter, I'm really impressed with Brandon Carter. I think he's funny. He's a great guy. But his sort of outlook on life is to maximize his efficiency, his potential. So it's He doesn't go to the grocery store. He doesn't own a car. He doesn't, the things that would take him away from staying on his grind. I mean, to the extreme. And now this is an extreme that I would not do, clearly, because I have a wife of 27 years. I have a daughter of 25 years. I am who I am. I do what I do.
You have a car.
Right? So I have a car. Yeah, actually, I got 2 cars. So, I do have a car. So clearly, this is not about me. This is the most over the top, absurd, extreme example.
You also have a kid. I think that's we all should point
exactly.
that out.
So
who's Brandon Carter?
Who's Brandon Carter?
The guy you're talking about.
You don't know Brandon
You
Carter?
know Brandon Carter?
Really
You've been on the show with Brandon.
No. He said he has a kid. He was just saying yes.
He
Brandon
also has a kid.
Yeah.
Yes, I understand.
Sorry.
But the idea is that the most over the top, like, what are you willing to sacrifice to get to the point so that you can get to that state of being a high value male, right? So, by the way, when I'm putting out the idea of a vasectomy, okay, keep it coming, because I love that one. But if there was a male birth control pill, I probably would have put that in there as well, because what that one section in there was meant to say is that beware of, like, when the sperm leaves your body, you lose all power over paternity and children and everything else. That's one of the things that really slows guys down. It's a hindrance to becoming to getting up to becoming a high value guy. So family creation. I'm not saying you should do these things, but if you want to get to the quickest way to doing those things, because it takes longer for men to mature into their peak potential, then these are the sacrifices that you're going to have to make to get to it as fast as you possibly can.
I feel like Sneako is probably going to take off from this, because when I came into these spaces, this is kind of a question that I had, and I think I fought with Fresh and Fit, I think, a lot on our first couple episodes, trying to figure out, like, what are you guys advocating for? So when I would bring up, like, Andrew Tate tweets and Bugattis and all that shit, a lot of the times these two clowns would tell me, they'd say, oh, this stuff is just a proxy for success. You don't actually need the Bugatti. You need the ability to buy the Bugatti. You don't need to travel the world. You need to have freedom, and all these things. So
he's lucky we're moderating.
Yeah, man. So it feels like
Lamborghinis.
It feels like, the goal initially wasn't to, like, be the richest motherfucker in the world. The goal was to have the freedom to basically do what you want.
Right.
And then I think the confusing part is, it feels like there's this kind of schism happening right now, or it's already started to happen in the red pill community, where you've got, like, the kind of trad people that are going in one direction, and then you've got, like, the grind set hustle culture that are going in the other direction. And it feels like the lightning point for this was your tweet, where it was like, okay, we're going to make it clear where we stand.
Yeah.
Get a fucking vasectomy, fuck family, and do this shit. And I think that it feels like the ultimate red pillar to you guys is what this is the feeling I have. The ultimate red pillar is a guy that grinds his fucking life away, and then at 35, he's, like, got fucking 15 million in the bank. He's fucked 50 girls, and now he's looking for, like, the best mom that he can find, who's like 20, 21 years old. He's going to get with that girl, 0-1 body count at the most, maybe 1, 0 at the best, right? Virgin girl gets with her, has a family, and then boom, that's like his life. Whereas it feels like on the kind of traditional side, it's like, well, what if you were, like, 24 and found a really good woman at 22, and then you had a family at 25, and you followed your career, she stayed at home, took care of the kids, and you followed that more traditional route. And your tweet, I think, really showed the division of people in terms of how they felt about which of the two lifestyles people were actually aiming for.
You got it.
Yeah.
Excellent.
And Sneako can...
Yeah, so what do you exactly do you believe in? Like, do you think that is the life that you should follow? Because when you go to the red pill spaces, that's pretty much the end route, is because you're high value, you got a bunch of Lamborghinis, you're extremely rich. And we talk about competence when it comes to a high value man. Like, I didn't have a rich dad growing up, and that didn't really hinder his competence. And in fact, in a lot of ways, being a father will help you become more competent, because other people are dependent and you're responsible for them. So that will make you become a full, capable man, which is, I think, the most important part of life. It's the most important part of life is not having a bunch of hoes, not fucking 50 girls, or getting the most amount of money possible and just hustle grinding forever. The reason that we are here is to have a family, is to create. And so you see the red pill, and it's a response to feminism. You see this doomer way, like all these girls are hoes, all these girls on Instagram, they're all thoughts, whatever, they all belong to the streets. And so the reaction to that is the red pill, which is basically feminism, just male feminism. It's the same response. We make fun of girls who say that they want to freeze their eggs and wait till they're 35, and then men are giving the same advice to each other, saying, and I know you're not saying that's advice, but pretty much, like, if you look at the definition of advice, that's what that tweet was.
Yeah. So I think there's two things here. We specifically don't run around calling girls 304s And like, I actually have a problem with it because I hear you sometimes talk about the audience there. We have to separate the audience, almost like Christ, Christianity, and the church. We have to separate the audience because I agree with you. There's some shit that I see that people write on your streams as well, where I'm like, what the fuck is this, man? This is crazy. And I don't want to be associated with it. Red pill is not, and again, I'm red pill adjacent. Red pill is not something I get a union card for that I pay dues for. It's an ethereal thing that just sort of exists. Like he calls it a praxeology. So the idea that like one of the things that's happened is every time, because he calls himself the godfather of it, when somebody does some stupid shit in the arena, then it's his fault. And then now we're going to punch his book. Cause now the thing is, it's just a cloud, but then there's a book. Okay. Now we have a physical thing to attack. And now Rollo has a tweet. Now we have a physical thing to attack. And so that's part of the issue, is that like now he's being held accountable for every, and I agree with you. Some of the things you hear are fucking idiotic. Over
the top. Yeah.
Right. Because here's an example. When we go over the psychological studies that show that men don't have the same, they don't necessarily cheat more because they have more higher body count, but women do. They tend to be unhappy in a relationship. There's the Institute for Family Studies study that we refer to all the time. That's not a validation for cheating. We're not suggesting men cheat. You said that in the response thing that I definitely do not think men should cheat, because in that whole situation you're still lying. That is a lack of integrity regardless. But do men have the ability to have more sexual partners early on in life? I was 20 years old. I'm 45 now. I was 20 years old at once, and there was a point in my life where I was going to UT Austin and I wanted to have sex with attractive women, and I didn't think about anything else except doing that. That's how my brain worked. And later on, did it affect me negatively? I don't think it did. I just don't think it had the same thing. So I don't think it's a rationale for that belief. But the thing is, what happens is anytime something bad happens or somebody says something stupid, it just comes back. It's like, now all red pillars are saying this all the time, and I just don't agree with that.
I understand what you're saying here. So first, let me clarify one thing. So I understand.
Should we define the red pill?
No, I don't think that's going to take all night.
Next week.
So I think the issue with Rollo's tweet, because for a lot of people it looks like advice, and for Rollo, he feels like it wasn't advice. I think the reality was, the disconnect is that that tweet was advice, but it was for advice to become a certain type of high value man that Rollo isn't saying everybody needs to become.
It said the quickest.
So, the quickest way to get to this part, it was the advice to do that, but he wasn't necessarily advising you to do that, right? It would be like him tweeting out, like, if you want to become the flattest person possible, jump off a cliff. And they say, well, is that advice to jump off a cliff? Well, if you want to be the flattest person possible, but you don't have to do this thing because you don't have to be the flattest person.
Statement.
Yeah, exactly. Sure.
Well, and the other thing is, I mean, there's a few people who got it almost immediately. Hotep Jesus got it immediately. He did stream it. Jedediah Bila, while you were on with Jedediah, she got it immediately. She's like, I know Rollo. I know he's not like this. I know this is a troll. This is she understood
I mean, that could
it
be true, but then I also saw
she's familiar with my background.
I also saw you tweet the next day, like you were kind of making fun of the TradCon way of life, saying that you want to be at your funeral bed with a bunch of kids around.
I was
saying that you would rather be listening to metal in your car.
That's how you want to go. I was mocking the idea of this sort of pastoral kind of Norman Rockwell fantasy of dying on your bed with, like, as an old man, with surrounded by grandchildren and whatever, and like as if that's like my funeral's going to beat your funeral,
right?
As if it's like
heavy metal in a car.
It's I put it this way: would you rather go out in a blaze of glory? Would you rather, was it better to burn out than fade away? What would you rather?
I don't see heavy metal in your car as a blaze of glory. That seems.
Okay,
right, but it's subjective, isn't it?
Here's the thing: is it's over the top, because I'm drawing attention to this fantasy of staying in your bed in an assisted living facility when 90% of people are never going to experience that. But it's a fantasy that we sell people so that we can sell them other ideologies.
I want to consider one other thing. You remember what he said earlier? He's like, one of the things you said was avoid family creation. Had I written that same tweet, what I would have said instead was, be the one who chooses when and where you have kids, and don't let control the birth. Control the birth.
Wow, imagine that.
Well, I understand. Yeah, so I understand.
The extreme example of that is a vasectomy. I would not have said vasectomy, but guess what? My tweet would not have gone viral. I wish I could say vasectomy on Twitter all day and go fucking viral.
That's the only thing they focused on.
So I understand what you're saying. So I would argue that you do pay dues to some extent to certain groups that you're a part of. So this is something that I noticed being relatively outside of groups myself. I kind of watch how people move through groups, and it seems like there very much is a kind of, there are a lot of groups that exist in these internet communities, and you get benefits for being part of the group because you kind of inherit audiences and cross-pollination from other people. And then there are sometimes shitty parts of being in the group. So for instance, if somebody says or does something crazy, well, now you're kind of on the hook for it because this motherfucker in your union just said some wild shit, and now you kind of have to go to bat for him. I think that something that I wholeheartedly disagree with is this idea that you can say like, well, everybody in my comment section might say this, but I didn't say that, or I'm just making descriptions. Humans never just make descriptions. We never just observe things. The process of choosing to observe something already requires a decision to be made, right? When you go into a laboratory to study medicine, we're not just plugging random chemicals and random elements into a formula and see what happens. We're doing something to try to figure out like, well, what is going to help make humans healthier? What's going to be a good medication for treating a disease or whatever? That's typically what we do. So when we're analyzing like the red pill, it's not just a praxeology, I think you called it, because even I think in your first book, you say like the goal is to make it so that your wife is not fucking the alpha, right? The reason why we observe things is so that we can take something useful from it and then go and do something with it. If I had an audience and I was making certain observations, and this has happened a lot, where I fight with a lot of black people, I notice my audience is getting a little bit racist. I fight with a lot of white people, I notice my audience is also getting a little racist. I fight with a bunch of women, they're starting to hate women, right? I notice that like if I do certain things, my audience definitely responds in certain ways, and your guys as well.
But you're not racist.
But it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, I think what matters is the impact you have on other people around you. Like if I go every day and I see my wife and I'm like, hey, what's up? And it's not at the end of like 6 months, she's like, you haven't told me that you think I'm pretty like a single time. Yeah. And I'm thinking like, okay, well, obviously I think you're pretty. You're my fucking wife. She's like, well, I need to hear it. I can't just say like, well, listen here, you stupid bitch. Obviously I think you're pretty. I don't have to say shit to you, motherfucker, right? I was like, okay, I have to understand how you feel. I've got to tell you that I think you're beautiful, blah, blah, blah. I have to do that every day because that's part of like what really matters at the end of the day is the impact you have on another person.
Should you be held accountable for the racist comments in your from your streamers?
Like directly, like you said them, no. But if you're fostering a certain type of audience, I think as leaders, which whether or not we want to believe it, to some extent we are, that's how we're treated, right? We're paid. When somebody gives you, like, we'll say on one end, well, I don't influence my audience. And then in the next breath, somebody will be like, I'll give you X $1,000 to promote a product. Why are you promoting the product? Because if I tell you to buy it, I know you will, right? So obviously we have influence over our audience. And if our audience is all heading in a certain direction, I think it's important to be like, hold on, guys. I see you guys are saying a lot of this shit. Maybe we need to pull it back. So when you say things about like avoiding family creation, you might say like, well, I don't actually mean to avoid it. I just mean to choose when you have children. That might be the case, but broadly in the red pill speaking, I've seen this huge push where it's like, never fucking have kids, never get married, women are trying to steal your shit, child support, alimony, women are coming after you. And it's like, okay, well, combine that with the vasectomy advice or the, control your birthing advice, and it makes the relationship seem very adversarial, like you are trying to avoid having kids at all costs. That's what it feels like, I guess, from the outset. And I think that's what a lot of the followers of red pill people in comment sections, I think that's the message they would carry forward.
I think the issue is then who's responsible? Because one of the issues, one thing we tried, Rollo and I tried, is our show, we try to have girls on there who have master's degrees. We try to have girls on there who do all different kinds of jobs. And when we do, we get the exact same response. When we had Miss Nevada on there, and they were like, yeah, she's a ran through fucking hoe. And I was like, what the fuck can we do?
We have women on there with master's degrees.
What can we fucking do? And so the thing is, while I agree with you, no matter what we do, this audience still exists and they still talk about it.
But why do they think that? What do they think that about these people?
The thing is,
because they want something to complain about. They want something to bitch and moan about.
Yeah, but they could complain about anything, right? They're choosing to complain about these particular subjects.
I also don't think commenters are the normal in the middle of the distribution. I think commenters are on the extreme ends of the distribution, which is why I personally don't feel super responsible for some of the idiotic things that they say. So I do understand what you're saying. Are we fostering an echo chamber? We specifically aren't. Well, like our
people think we're soft on the girls because
constantly
we don't.
They think we are
because
so soft on the girls.
We're not like in their face too much because they're looking for blood. They're looking for something that's exhilarating. They're looking for Jerry Springer,
But how many people do you think saw that tweet, and whether or not you call it advice, saw that and are now going to apply it? Especially because we talk about how important it is as leaders. You call yourself the godfather of the red pill. Like you kind of own this ideology in a sense, like you are the forefront of it. So is tweeting that a good idea?
I think I put first off, it was meant to provoke. That's number one. And it did. I got Matt Walsh, I got Ben Shapiro, I got Lauren Shannon. We wouldn't even be talking about this right now.
I don't have any of those people retweeting my shit. That's the only thing I'm saying. Like I retweeted vasectomy 5 times on Twitter.
And we're still talking about it 2 weeks later. It was success. It was a
Can we add in what Twitter's used for, by the way? And you yourself said so as well. You want to go viral, you got to say the most outlandish things. So Twitter,
I would say,
but if that was really the only reason, then you wouldn't have gotten that debate and got so emotional about everything that happened. You would have started. You called us fucking idiots. You called us douche. And also, if it was just in order to,
because you weren't getting it, that's why.
Well, then you would have been rubbing your hands and be like, okay, I got the reaction I wanted. Here they are talking about it. Ben Shapiro, all these people are talking about it.
It's not your fault. But to be fair, he did a reaction video where he said he was married for 50 years. I'm a cokehead, and Justin Waller pays for prostitutes.
Damn.
So that to be fair, there was a little ad hominem attack on us. You weren't part of it, but that's probably where some of this came from.
I would have taken that if I were you.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Yeah, because you would be here for it. You're fucking 2 hours late, Fred. Shut the fuck up.
By the way, I've never.
I'll do the moderator.
Thanks, moderator.
So going back, because so Sneako, you have some traditional conservative beliefs, so you disagree with the whole vasectomy part. What is the main, I guess, issue with it? Is it because of the lack of family creation? You think that's going to lead to degeneracy?
I think the two branching paths that I set up, like, what are you guys advocating for? Like, do you think if a guy could do it, if a guy could be 25 at the head of his career, starting right there, about to go down his life, but also pair up with a really good woman who he could have kids with, and then by the time he's in his 30s, he's already got like 7, 8, 9-year-old, a couple children with a good wife. Is that something you guys would push for? Or do you think that men should stay as far the fuck away from that as possible and wait till they hit those prime years of being like 35?
So the answer would be somewhere in the middle. I think it's how over time, because I think social media has ruined things so much. If you know the whole thing where we talk about 33% of men having 0 sexual partners, that hockey stick starts at the advent of the Facebook app on the iPhone in 2008. You can see it just shoot right up to where it was 12% of men or 16% of men with 0 sexual partners, and it got up to 33. So the thing is, what's happened now is, I would say it's statistically less viable, not unviable, but less viable for the 24-year-old to marry the 21-year-old and feel good about it, because by the time she's 31 and he's 30, or she's 31 and he's 34, 35, the dynamics of his relationship are going to change. He's going to make more money. He's going to see the world differently. Now, I'm not advocating he leave his wife, but now those pressures existed where they didn't exist before 2008.
Sure. So so I would push back against this strongly. So here's something that I've noticed, okay? People ask me, so I talk to a lot of women, I do my thing or whatever. When people ask me, like, what do you think is the best advice for like learning game? Okay. Honest to God, the best advice is when you're like 12 to 18, having friends that are girls. Talking to women, not being nervous around them, dating in high school.
You're not going to get any argument from this guy.
Okay, yeah, I don't know if you believe that or not. But honestly, that's the best time to do it. The second best time is now, right? But if you're not starting early and you're 25 and you've never even been shot down by a girl before, that's literally the scary. You could get a guy to climb the Empire State Building before asking a girl out.
So immersion from women, being around women.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. In those warm spaces where dating and everything is possible, right? But the issue is when we push on this grind set shit so hard, and now you're getting a guy that's like 32, and he goes out on a date with a girl, and he wants to talk about like white papers for crypto coins. How the fuck is this guy going to be in a spot in his life where he's ready to like find a woman, settle down with a family? Like, how does he turn that on instantly?
The grind set guy doesn't mean you don't talk to women ever. It just means you're not looking to get married.
Well, one of those pieces of advice, like eliminate all sedations or whatever.
So what that means is like eliminate pornography, eliminate alcohol, eliminate prescription, opioids, whatever.
How do feminist women not fall under the category of sedations?
Feminist women.
Yeah, how do hoes, for example, if you're talking about porn as a sedation, drugs and everything like that, can't you group hoes directly into the category of sedation?
You mean loose women or feminist women? Is that what you're saying?
Exactly, because you're not looking for anything further than that. It's just a way to get some dopamine release and just have a little bit of fun. It's pretty much equivalent to playing a video game or watching porn. It's not anything, like maybe you learn a little bit about hoes, but you're not going to get anything out of it.
I would say the difference is that it is far more difficult for guys to use that as a sedation than it is to say play World of Warcraft all day long, or it's to go drinking.
I don't know, man. I'd push back on that too. I think we all know guys. I think we all know guys.
You're in the gamer set. I got it.
Well, no. I'm saying I think for the girl set, I think we all know guys that have thrown their life away doing dumb girl shit. Whether you end up knocking somebody up, whether you get a crazy
half the reason shows like this exist is because guys aren't fucking getting laid. That's why. So
yeah, but I think Sneako brings up a really good point that when you say eliminate,
I think it's less of a less significant than say some other forms of sedation. So when I'm talking about sedation in the tweet itself, people I've said this a million times, is like, if you want to actually get up and actually become something and be something better, this is like where I finally get into like something like a positivity hustle, right? It doesn't matter if you learn all this stuff, you read all my books, you do all this shit. None of it matters if you can't get your ass out of bed. If your shitty real life is worse than your online escape life, that's what I'm talking about. That's the sedation right there. So could it be that you're a sex addict? Yeah, it can. But I would say those guys are probably far less common than the guys who are smoking weed, prescription drugs, pornography,
I would argue
whatever
that it's actually a worse sedation just based on the fact that you're saying get a vasectomy, because the consequences are much worse than any of the other sedations.
You're talking about sleeping around with a lot of women.
I mean, the consequences are much worse, obviously, because you're advocating for getting a vasectomy, because you could have a kid with this girl.
Right.
It's way more expensive. It's a bigger time suck. You're going to be drinking. You're going to be in environments that aren't going to be uplifting you whatsoever. You're in clubs all the time. You're around women that you don't really like. You get angry because you have to deal with, like, Myron always jokes about how he's going bald doing the show all the time because these women will suck away your soul. And really, what's the outcome of it? A nut? Is that really, like, how many times did you go and fuck a girl and you're like, that was really worth the last 2 weeks of my time of texting back and forth, taking her out on dates, spending all this money, getting dressed, listening to her stupid conversation about astrology? Like, is that really something worth advocating for? How is that a better sedation than weed, than porn, than video games?
I'm the wrong person to ask. I love women. I love fucking hanging out with them. I don't have the same opinion or whatever.
I mean, I love alcohol, but I quit. Like, there's a lot of things.
I've never drank before. That's the other thing. I've never tried Coke, by the way. That's the other thing. So I'm with you.
You're missing out, okay?
Yeah. But that's the thing. Like, sedations are great. I've done all the sedations.
Yeah.
I used to watch porn.
But here's the thing. Some people could say the gym is a sedation. The thing is, if you were going to rank the sedations, I would rather say a guy going out there and getting himself in shape, learning how to dress, learning how to talk to women, putting some bass in his voice, and actually going out and socializing with other people, getting over his fear of approaching women is a healthier sedation to me than pornography. That's just if we're going to rank sedations.
Well, and then I was going to say, like, other people are more addicted to a certain sedation than others are. If that is significant in your life and you're like, hey, you know what, I'm a sex addict, all I'm doing is going out and picking up random hoes all the time, and I've finally got it down to a science, and it becomes a problem and it's like affecting other aspects of your life, then yeah, I would say that that's a sedation that you need to, like, find, because it's an escape. I think sedations tend to be escapisms, is what I'm saying.
I think the contradiction that Sneako was pointing out is that, like, you're, by definition, you're removing from the table all the women you would want to court for marriage because you're avoiding family creation.
Nobody courts them anymore.
Well, when I say court, I mean, like, you're dating to get like married, right? So you're removing all those girls. So the only ones left are the 304s, necessarily, if you're trying to focus on the grind set, but then also have fun with girls on the side. So then at that point, it seems like you're engaging in women the same way somebody would engage with, like, weed or whatever. You're not doing it for, like,
you can date a woman you want to have kids with and not have kids with her. Like, eventually have kids.
I mean,
at some point you will have
so
kids.
then the vasectomy thing doesn't make any sense.
Okay,
and also, it would depend on the ages too, because if you're like,
I think it was hyperbole what he's saying.
Again,
Go ahead.
I think if, like, you're both in your early 20s and you're like, I don't think I want to have kids till I'm 35. That's a tough sell for a lot of women.
Unless you date someone who's younger.
Sneako, if there was a male form of birth control like Vasogel or something like that, and instead of saying vasectomy, and I said do this and take this, and it's not a permanent thing, you can always go back off of it.
No, because I think that's what we should be fighting when it comes to red pill and tradcon. That's like, it's a similar common enemy that's trying to sedate us in a way. Birth control for women, it messes up their hormones, it makes them extremely argumentative, they get weird, they get on different cycles. I don't advocate you to take these pills. I tell people all the time not to get the injection. Like, why would you go and listen to these pharmaceutical companies? Why would you let them win and go play into these games and pretty much just to chase dopamine? Then you're becoming a rat for these big companies, for big pharma, when you could just, like, actually have a, like, that's the point. That's the reason that sex exists, is to have children. Then you're completely removing the purpose of it, and then you're just chasing dopamine.
Can I chime in and just add something here real quick?
So moderators.
Yes, moderator.
Plan B.
What's up, moderator?
Moderators.
2 words. Plan B.
You know, here's the thing. While I agree with you now today at 45, I will tell you, like, I wasn't a whore because nobody fucking liked me. But at 25, I wanted to have sex with pretty girls. That's what I did, and I don't feel like it ruined me. That's the only thing.
Well,
like,
so do I.
Yeah.
Like, every day. But there's better things to do with your time and with that sexual energy.
Let me ask you
can focus that into becoming better. Into
do you not think at all, though, that period of time helped you understand women better?
I'm 24. I'm still
learning
now. Yeah.
Yeah. So I will tell you at 45, and I used to work in nightlife, and I used to, be a military officer, a bunch of different jobs. And I will tell you that, like, the value that I gained from having so many women in my life, not necessarily just for sex, but my ability to communicate with them now is 100. Like, I do the red carpets for all these different parties, and I bring 100 girls to Bulzarian's house. Like, that's what I do now because I'm good at doing that now. I look back at that and I say that was a good experience for me. I didn't necessarily have to have sex with all of them, but I do understand what you're saying. The problem is, where I differ from you and maybe from Myron is, like, I don't hate being around them. I actually fucking really like being around some of them. They're fun, they're crazy, and they're just fun to be around. I just don't want to marry them. You understand what I'm saying? Like, that's the difference for me. It was like Juicy J says, I still love these hoes. They're for everybody, but I love them anyway. That's the way I look at it. I mean, maybe it's just a little different.
Yeah,
the way
you see them purely as entertainment, but I think it's better to see.
But I don't hate them either. You understand what I'm saying?
But you're not really. It's better to see them as people.
That's how I see them. Exactly.
You're seeing them as entertainment.
Well, no, I think the difference he's trying to point out is that you made it sound like because you said like 2 weeks of texting this bitch to get to the payoff of sex. He sounds like he enjoys the texting.
I fucking loved all of it.
Which I do too, right? It's fun for me. I was
in a stage of abundance, and also my lifestyle is a little different. It's big parties that we go to, huge events,
which is just a bigger, grander sedation. That's no different than really watching.
I think it's networking though. Like I've met some incredible. I wouldn't be sitting here right now had I not done that. It was Andrew Tate who reached out to me, introduced me to Justin Waller, who introduced me to him, and that's how I introduced Myron. So I don't see it that way. I see it as a goal, an ends to a means, and also the other thing is, and dude, Walt will tell you this too. Having beautiful women around you is one of the most incredible networking techniques that exists.
That's true.
There's an incredible book by Professor Ashley Mears at Boston University, where she talks about the guys who go to the Hamptons, and the ticket to get into every party at every Hamptons house with all the billionaires was to have girls.
Right.
So that's why
that's gonna lead you to a fun life.
Yeah.
But I was talking to Adam22 recently, and he has his own porn thing too. I don't know if he's allowed to
plug talk.
Yeah, he has plug talk and everything like that. I was recently talking to him because he's been posting a lot of pictures of his daughter and stuff like that. And I always like react to them like, that's dope. Like he clearly cares about being a good father. And I had this conversation with him, and he said that after being with 400 women, doing all this show, like I asked him, like, was it really worth it all? That he's like, there's nothing better than having kids. Yeah. And even that's coming from a guy who's clearly been a sex addict, who did all this stuff. He went on my stream and he was talking about all these crazy threesomes, and he's like, he very public about all this stuff. And he's saying there's nothing better than having a family and having a kid. Even this guy that's like slept with all the girls, like everybody in the chat, you watch like the top porn stars, he's been with them. And that does not compare to having a family. So yes, okay, Dan was in a party.
Does he regret it? Does he regret?
Yeah, because one thing could be better than something else, but it's still really fun, right?
It's not about regret. It's about advocating what's best for the young male audience and for the future generation. So is it better to advocate towards vasectomy so you can go to Dan Bilzerian parties, or better to advocate like become competent men, raise a good family, have strong children, and then your life is going to be, that's the best life.
I think it's a great life. I don't know if it's the only good life. I think there's a lot of people who just don't want to have children. I think we've seen it all the time, and they're happy. The thing is, if I were to look at it from the book of Leviticus or the book of Genesis, or if I were to look at it from the Quran, you're right. That's not a great life. But I think for other people, they can enjoy life without.
The only people that don't want to have kids have been psyoped by the bigger agenda to believe that climate change and all these other external factors, that's the reason they don't want to have kids. It's all a lie. That's the reason we're here, is to procreate. That's all animals. You're like an evolutionary.
Let me ask you this. Let's take it to the next level. Let's say you're married, okay? You found the one. You're with your girl, right? Is having sex with her without procreation, is that also an escape? Is that now a sedation? If you're not doing it to specifically have children, is it then a drug addiction?
Right, but then it becomes a unity between a mother and a father.
So how is that not an escape, though?
Because it's still always
you're enjoying it though, and it's not procreation, though.
Right? But there's always the risk of procreation. Like that's the point that you do it. There's always the possibility.
Would you use birth control with your wife if you didn't want to have kids?
No, I would never get my wife on birth control. Absolutely not.
No, I think condom. He's including condoms.
Yourself.
Any kind of birth control.
Any kind. Vasogel, condom, whatever. Any kind of
sure, it is a form of escapism to some extent, but it's better than spending your time with a bunch of women that you don't respect or like or even consider as really people.
Okay, I'm not trying to put you on the spot, because I hear this quite a bit these days. Is like the most extreme end? I'm not saying like Islam, but like a lot of these really super orthodox Christian guys will say that any sex that is not for procreation is a drug addict, is drug addiction, or it's haram, right? Anytime you're doing something to feel good, it's a dopamine release. Any kind of is any dopamine good?
I think between a husband and wife, then it's not just dopamine. It's something that you're connecting and you're establishing a relationship that's bigger. If you just do it with these hoes, like, you know that it's a one-time thing, you're thinking this dumb hoe, and then you're just going to kick her out. You're already thinking about it.
We're talking about sedation at this point, so.
Yeah, but that's a sedation. That's a different level. Like that's not a waste of time sedation. You're bonding with the partner. There's something that you're gonna create a future with this person. You're gonna see her the next day.
Maybe another way to say it is you're of one flesh now, like what it says in the Bible. And
to steal Sneako's point here, and I understand what he's saying, I think one of the problems that we've ran into in society, and I think even Red Pill hits on this a little bit, is we become a society that has like taken every pleasure and reduced it down to its instantaneous like click button to get it, basically, right? So instead of reading a book, we browse TikTok. Instead of going to the theater and actually watching a movie, we're at home with a movie playing, Subway servers in the background, and like a game going at the same time, right? We have no ability to have attention or focus on anything. We've taken all of our pleasure centers and we've short-circuited them into the most immediate gratifying way possible. Now, that doesn't mean that all of those pleasure centers are necessarily bad. And I think from a religious perspective, when you look at how society is structured, ultimately society is kind of stemming from the structure of mother, father, children. And anything that's done in service of the maintenance of that structure is necessarily a good thing. So when you like ask Sneako, like, well, is it sedation to fuck your wife? Well, no, because sex there, even though that's the same kind of, it's the same act as having sex with a stranger, that's being done in service of unifying and strengthening the bond between father and mother that's ultimately serving as the foundation for all of society. Much the same way that nobody's going to give me props if I go to the park and play with random kids, but if I go to the park and I play with my son, people are like, oh, well, that's a really good thing to do.
With random kids, you might go to jail.
Yeah, exactly, right? Yeah, but you're still like, you're either playing with kids or you're playing with your son, right? But it's important to do with your family because you're doing it in service of that bond of like father-son and building the family. Same thing with sex between a mother and father. Sex between a mother and father is not the same thing as random sex because that's being done in service of fortifying this institution that ultimately all of society is built upon.
Yeah,
so I think that's the difference.
The red pill advice is 50 women. So the whole purpose is just to get
I think it's Myron's specific advice.
Okay, but like one of the forefronts of the red pill, just get this done. It's like getting a notch on your belt. You're going through the motion specifically. It's like doing reps, and that you're treating a person like you're just getting reps done.
Yeah,
that's not that is dopamine release in its purest form. You're not trying to establish anything. The whole point is to never see her.
Myron, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I think Myron's not saying that for dopamine release. He's saying that for experience, so that you don't get used by women. I think one of the things, the whole point.
Well, that's why I'm equating that sex to being a waste of time.
I think if you gain some experience, and you had made the point before, is like, oh, is this going to you're going to fuck this girl and be able to tell if she's a good mom? No, but what you're going to be able to do is see the red flags before they come. You go on a date with a girl you find really attractive and she will not shut up about her ex. That's probably a good red flag. But after you've done this a few times, doesn't have to be 50 times, but after you've done this a few times, you start to see these red flags before they occur, and you're smarter, and you can help your friends out with those things. That's the only reason why I would say that.
A little bit, although I would fight on some of that advice because like you can and like you said something earlier about how the casual dating and shit that you did in your early years probably helped you with dating later on. Yeah. It sounds like, based on what I hear you say, that's probably true for you. But I think we could both agree there are ways that you can do it that wouldn't help you at all, right? If you go onto Tinder, you find a girl, you dinner, fuck her, never talk to her again, you could do that 50 times and arguably have less experience than a guy that's dated one woman for 7 years. Yeah. Right? Just because you never even learned.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. So like fucking 50 women could give you a lot of insight potentially into the female psyche, I guess, if you actually spend any time with them and date them. But if it's literally just one night stand, like, I don't know if you really learned anything, right?
Well, see, here's the thing, though. The average North American male has had, is it seven sexual partners, six sexual partners? 7 to 9, yeah. So for him to say 50, I think that sort of is going to include that necessary experience, right? And we can debate on how worthy that experience is. I will tell you, at 45, I've learned a lot about women from being around women, not necessarily just having sex with them.
I want to address like your point as well, because I hear what you're saying, because a lot of people will take the quote unquote red pill to its most logical extreme, right? So just fuck a bunch of girls. That's all it's about, right? When my very first book, there's 6 chapters in there. It's called Plate Theory. Okay. Each one of those, like when we're spinning plates, it's like you're dating non-exclusively. And if you read those, rather than just listen to what's going on online, you'll notice that the last chapter in there is transitioning out of the plate spinning, the dating non-exclusively, into something that is more monogamous at that point. But that gets thrown to the wayside because nobody reads anymore, obviously. But the fact of the matter is I think that with this, another thing that comes back on me is people say, well, Rollo just says fuck anything on 2 legs. That's not what I'm saying at all. In fact, in the book itself, I say, you know what? Just because you're spinning plates doesn't mean you're fucking every single one of those plates. There are possibilities. For some of them, maybe you are. For some of them, maybe you're not. But you're dating non-exclusively. And so the idea behind that is not to get your notch count up or not to validate your ego for whatever reason. It's so that you understand so you know what you want in a woman, and so you know what you don't want in a woman. Whether you fuck that woman in the first place is irrelevant. Some guys are going to do that, obviously. But I think the idea, and I've been struggling with this since the very early days when I was a moderator on the SoSwap boards, is that I think a lot of people think that it's conditioning guys or it's teaching guys to be like jerks, to be like womanizing sons of bitches. And I would say that most guys who come into the red pill are not looking to be like players. They're not looking to be guys who want to go and just like bang as many women
just
as they possibly can.
Just the majority of the
commenters. Maybe that's true. But the fact is that most of the guys, at least in my experience from working with these guys in the last 20 years, they want one chick. They want to actually kiss a girl. They're like 24, 25, in some cases 30 years old, and they've never gotten anywhere. They've never had any intimacy, never had any kind of affection. And I'm not like, sex is even out of the question. Just to have a girlfriend is why they're like, what they have been doing up to this point hasn't been working for them. So that's why they come in and they find this. Are there guys who can use the red pill so that they can go and spin plates and they can get a rotation? Absolutely. Are there guys who can use the red pill to find a wife? Absolutely. That's the beauty of the red pill. It's not, it's like I said before, it's like fire. You can use it to cook your food, and you can use it to heat your home, or you can use it to set your house on fire and set your neighbor's house on fire. It just depends on the application.
But you're acting like it's this really deep philosophy or praxia. Like, is it really that complicated? Like, what if you could just describe
getting experience with women? I think
it is that complicated.
How is it that complicated?
Or actually, or even on the back of that, how does it work then that you guys? I'm grouping all of you together. Maybe it's just for, maybe it's just Myron.
I'm just here moderating.
Yeah. Because it seems like then, because I would personally, I feel like I would consider the ultimate success red pill story then would be somebody like Ben Shapiro. But it feels like you guys really disagree. So how do you reconcile those two things? Because he's somebody who found a wife early on, got married, has a business, has a family, seems like he's doing everything right, unless we really are saying, but he didn't fuck enough women. So how do you reconcile that?
So if it works out for him, so it's like this, what was it? Rich Cooper, who says, hey, don't ever date a single mother, right? If someone comes up to Rich Cooper and is like, hey, listen, I know what your advice was, but I just want to let you know, I'm dating a single mom and it's worked out for me. We've been together for 10 years. Rich Cooper's not going to go, fuck you, stupid motherfucker. Why didn't you listen to me? He's going to go, hey, congrats, man. It worked out for you. That's how I would look at Ben Shapiro. Marrying the first woman you had sex with is not unviable, but it's slightly, it's out there 2 standard deviations away from the norm. Today, not in 1850, that was the norm. Today, I think it's difficult. Now, here's the thing: if we look at Steven Crowder's situation, what I'll say about this, I think Steven Crowder is. I disagree with him. I think he is a high status man. The difference,
I think so too.
the difference with Steven Crowder is, I would say that most of us in here and most of this audience, realizing you got married in the state of Texas, made that much money, and didn't sign a prenup, that was not a smart move on his part. In fact, I would even go so far, and you might disagree with me on this, if he had signed a prenup, she wouldn't be filing for divorce.
That never would have been occurred to them, though, because they're both like from evangelical cultures, and they're both like virgins, and they're like in their early
sure, but then again, look at the divergence here from the traditional versus the red pill, right? Where the red pill is like, you need to be going into this marriage waiting for it to fail, get that prenup, do all this, like
protecting yourself.
Sure, but I mean, like, I would argue, Sneako is our Muslim expert. I won't touch your book, sorry. But like, wouldn't you argue that going into marriage is literally, again, like the union of flesh, you know, till death do us part, et cetera? That if you're going in with the prenup, you're basically like doing with your fingers crossed behind your back.
So you wouldn't go in with a prenup?
Well, I personally wouldn't. I don't know if I would suggest that for other people, but I'm pointing out the difference between like the trad versus the red pill, where there's this huge schism right now in terms of advice.
So do you remember the science thing? So if 70 to 80% of divorces are initiated by women, then it would de-incentivize women to get a divorce if there was a prenup. That's just scientifically the way I'm looking at it. Nobody gets into, again, 38% of businesses stay in business after 5 years, something like that. Nobody starts a business, but hey, man, 38% chance we're going to fucking make it. But if you get married, hey, you know what? There's a 53% chance that we're going to get divorced. Nobody says that. Everyone has. So, but why not protect ourselves? I have home insurance, but I don't intend on burning down my house, and I have car insurance, but I don't intend on totaling my car. I just don't think. I think you can still be prepared. Maybe this is the military officer in me. All we do is practice emergency procedures, but we don't intend on crashing. And so that's why I would do that.
I mean, I agree with you insofar as business and insurance goes. It feels a little bit different. It feels a little bit different when you're talking about marriage, because it's not necessarily just a financial union. It is realistically part of it is a financial union.
That's the origin of marriage was a financial union.
Well, probably, but it also had to do with like family creation, everything too, right? Heavily played into it. Probably more important even than the financial union was the family creation part. It just, again, it feels like I'm feeling the rift between like date to find a wife to create a family versus date. This 3 or 4 might divorce you, get a prenup, get ready to, you know, she's 15 years younger than you. It seems like there's that big divergence of qualities around the marriage part. I'm curious for both of you, you guys can answer. Like Sneako, what is like your ideal path in life? If you could be like striving towards an ideal, when does the man get married and have a family? And then you two, like, when do you think a man should get married and have a family? Like in general, knowing that there's going to be exceptions, but in the Western world.
We can go to Sneako first.
I would say late 20s to early 30s. And a part of the reason why I reverted to Islam is I see it as the only logical way to get around the boredom aspect that the red pill talks about, because men always get bored. Men always want variety, and there's an ethical way to do it. See, if you have multiple wives, then you're not just spending time with these girls knowing that you're going to go never see them again and you're just using them for a body count. If you have multiple wives and you love them equally and you're providing for them and they're getting something out of it, and then you get past that variety problem that a lot of guys have, and you also the women are going to act more in your favor if they're in a sense competing with one another to make sure that they're providing for the husband.
How do you handle this legally? I mean, bigamy is
I would not get married legally. I don't recommend anybody in the West get married. I think we've seen it fail over and over again. I just don't think, but I would get
family
married.
creation without legal marriage.
But you can get married religiously.
Yeah,
you can have the ceremony. I think a lot of girls would like to have the ceremony. They want to get the dress with the pictures in the ring, but they don't need to have the actual contract. And I think for a lot of guys that if they would just logically explain that to their woman, they would have to agree. Just look at all the failed marriages. You look at the divorce rate.
Well, let me caveat that.
Do you guys agree with that? When guys should get married? To just summarize, late 20s, 30s?
I've already actually put that in my book. So it's like don't even consider monogamy until you're 30 years old.
You would agree with that?
At least 30, man. Okay, I would say at least 30. Right. Yeah.
So y'all are in agreement about when they should get married. Yeah, I guess they might say get expensive plates in the process to do so. You're saying minimize that.
I mean, I would argue from a trad spot. I think you would argue for earlier than 30, right? Because you want to have children to have fun with when you're in your vibrant stages in life. Like having a teenager.
We're pretty vibrant.
Well, mid to late 20s, early 30s. It depends for a lot of people.
Sure. But we say 30s. Like if you have a kid when you're like,
we're pretty vibrant.
No, I understand. But like when you have a kid when you're like 35, 36, and now they're in their teenagers years, and you're like in your 50s, right? Okay. It's not necessarily the same type of vibe as you have a kid.
Clarify, so Sneako, you're against guys spinning plates and/or having premarital sex with girls prior to obviously the relationship.
I just see it as a waste of time to just be spending your time with hoes and saying that that's not a sedation. Okay. Like that's the one component that the red pill's missing, is that they see it as experiences. You're getting better. It's part of being a high value man, is having a huge body count. I see that as actually a worse sedation than porn, than video games, and all this other thing, because not only is it just going to waste your time, but the risk factor is extremely high. And the solution that is offered to become this high value man that the red pill talks about is getting a vasectomy, which is not even the quickest solution, because
again, hyperbole, but
yes, hyperbole. Right. He was so the thing is, you guys remember the story of the Buddha, right? He goes off and he's a prince. He's an Indian prince, and he's never seen a dead person. He's never seen a sick person. He goes out for the first time and he sees the sick, the poor, the dead. He comes back and he freaks out, and he finds enlightenment under the lotus tree, and he tells everyone to get rid of all of your personal possessions and all this kind of stuff. But it's really easy to say that when he had a fucking harem before he said it. When you interviewed Bilzerian, he's like, oh, having sex with all these girls isn't that big of a deal. It's really easy to say that after you had sex with all those girls. If we say this, Sneako, to other dudes, they're going to sit there and listen to us and be like, hey, let me fuck these girls real quick first, and then let me learn this lesson on my own. That's the problem.
Yeah, men learn from experience.
For sure. I will tell you, you are 100% right. It was a sedation for me, and I fucking enjoyed it. I'll tell you that also. So that's the problem. The thing is, while we say that, and I agree with what you're saying, and I think you're setting a good example, the problem is men are still men. Men are always going to be more interested in casual sex than women are. The 37 culture study done by Dr. David Bussin, all 37 cultures, men were more interested in casual sex than women are.
That's true. But then you have to think about, like, because we all have a platform, like, what's the best advice to give out to the masses? Because if you're saying
statistics is the best advice. The truth is the only thing that I care about. I don't amoral, like you said before, because the problem is that the Overton window consistently shifts to the left. And no matter how much I, as a Christian, want it to go back to the right, I know that unless, other than I can think of maybe Afghanistan recently in 1979 in Iran, I can't think of a single society that shifted back to the right in the last 50 years.
But then you're creating a bunch of men that are victims to that system and that are just playing parts of this leftist system instead of trying to create people.
I don't think it's leftist, but yeah, I understand what you're saying. Yeah.
I think you also have to be careful. Our advice can't be statistics, because I feel like one of the things you argue against as red pillars is just being a statistic, right? Like you could argue if you're listening to your man should kill yourself, because statistically speaking, men kill themselves more than women, but that's not a good argument, right? Like in some senses,
we have to give a prescription, is what you're saying.
Yeah, exactly. Like you don't want to just be a statistic, right? Well, because statistically speaking, what percentage of marriages end in divorce? What percentage of women initiate divorce? Right? You want to try to find a way to rise above, right?
I guess maybe a better way would be like, here's my prescription, but they come with the statistics, and this is the reason why. And none of them are based on my feelings. They're always going to be based on other statistics. So I would say, for instance, if I were to say 78% of divorces are initiated by women, that would be my prescription would then be to get a prenup. But it's based on that statistic.
Yeah, for sure. But it could also be like, well, here are the most common reasons for divorce. Try to remedy these before they become an issue.
That's another great statistic, though. You're being a statistic for a prescription.
But the feeling is, what do we express at the end of the day, right? It's the difference between history and historiography, right? If we want to tell the story of World War II, we're not going to talk about every single soldier in the war. We're going to focus on, the leaders. We're going to focus on the big battles. Same thing with statistics, right? it's what is it? Statistics don't lie, but liars use statistics. You can arguably use statistics to tell almost any kind of story you want, depending on how you massage your numbers and depending on what side you present. But it's our choice to choose what we want to present to the people, which is what we tell them to do. Also, one thing I would say on the marriage stuff, because I hear this a lot. I don't know how many of you guys talk about this or get into this a lot. You have to be really careful with the live with a woman but never get married. One, is because some states have something called common law marriage, which I hope most of you guys are familiar with, right? So you might not think you're married.
I don't believe has it, but yes.
I think Texas.
No, Texas does. I'm sorry, Nevada doesn't have it. You're right.
Be very careful with that because you might find you're getting a divorce notice from a woman you never agreed to marry. So one, be careful with the common law thing. And then two, I do believe that one of the reasons, we don't have to get too deep into the divorce stuff because that might come later, but one of the reasons women probably want some sort of like formal contract is because, while there might be some love and children, all of that, there is also money and career being left on the table too, depending on the arrangement. If you're telling a woman like, hey, we're going to fuck, we're going to have kids, and I love you and I love that and I love our family, you're going to stay here and take care of the kids while I go and I continue my career. When we split, if we get divorced in 10 years, I didn't lose shit financially. Because my career has been fine. I've been working the entire time. And now you're stuck being a full-time caregiver. You might have given up your career to do it. So I think it's reasonable for the woman to say, much the same that a man might say, I want a prenup, just because we get divorced and you're taking half my shit. The woman could also be like, okay, I understand that. But if we end up getting divorced and I'm throwing away a decade of my life to take care of your fucking children, our children, I want some kind of financial assurance too. I think that's fair.
And you're aware that certain prenups are thrown out exactly for the reason
depending on how egregious they are or the state of the people writing them or if both sides had representation. There's a lot of some prenups do get thrown out, but not all of them, right?
Okay, real quick. This has been great. I'm going to read some of these chats real quick, and we're going to kill the Facebook and the Twitter stream. So, guys, come on over to YouTube right now. Like the video on YouTube. Subscribe to the channel. And also, all the guys' links are below. Follow Destiny on YouTube. So, check out Sneako on Rumble. Check out Mike Sartain and the Access Vegas podcast on his channel, as well as Rollo Tomasi on the Rational Mail. I'm reading only $100 super chats and up, guys, so that I can make sure that we keep this thing nice and succinct. We got Platinum Elite going. The Red Pill has flaws.
Going, though, so thanks, guys. I appreciate you.
Oh, you got to go?
Oh, you got to go?
Yeah.
Hey, come to Vegas.
He's going right before.
Yeah, seriously, come to Vegas. Come to Vegas.
Don't
worry, we won't take it in any clubs. I'll take it some. I'm the married guy.
Do they have any mosques in Las Vegas?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, of course.
Man.
Let's go.
Yeah, you're in. You're on.
This guy's Sneako,
okay,
man.
Have fun with your new friend, your closer friend.
El Sneako.
Got some distractions.
That's it. Your job?